Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to change your Google or your Gmail password. So the first thing you want to do is open up your Chrome browser and come over here all the way on the right, and you should see your icon here in the upper right and right here. You want to click on the second one, the one on the bottom. Click on it and then come down to where it says Manage Your Google Account. Click, and then over on the left side in the list, come down to Security and click. And then you'll need to scroll down a little bit to where it says Signing into Google Password. And you will see that it says when it was last changed. You should change your password. They say every 6 months, create a new password. So that is a best practice. So click on the arrow there, and then it will ask you to confirm and sign in. Type your password, your current password, and hit next. And then it will bring you to this password screen. And I'm going to give you some tips for how to create the best password. So let me bring up the Google slide. Okay, here we go. So the title of this that I made is called Password Perfection, How to Create a Strong Password. So why is it important to create a strong password? Well, first of all, when you have a strong password, you are able to keep all of your personal information safe. And that is really, really important if you don't want other people to find everything about you that they shouldn't be knowing, especially when it comes to important information like banking information, where your money is, how much money you have in school. This could relate to your documents for your classes, all of your files, and all of that other content. I've had some students who did not change their password and someone got into their Google, Gmail, Google Classroom account and deleted all their classrooms, things like that. So it's very, very important that you create a strong password. Basically, you're trying to protect yourself, your emails, your files, all your other content, and prevent others from getting into your things, into your accounts. So very important. All right, so how do we create a password? What are some of the requirements? These are some of the things you should do. You should use at least 8 characters or more. And the characters that you use can be any combination of letters, numbers, symbols. Sometimes you have to include one of each. Sometimes when you go to a website, they won't let you create a password unless you have a good mix of letters, numbers, and symbols. And I do recommend that you use letters, numbers, and symbols, not just a word, not just a series of numbers, and not just a series of symbols. They do not usually in passwords allow accent marks like the apostrophe and things like that. So, but you can use things like an and sign, you can use an exclamation point, you can use a dollar sign, the at symbol, those type of the asterisk, those types of symbols are allowed in password creation, and I highly recommend you use them. Also, you should use a different password for each of your important accounts, like your email, and if you're banking, and some other online programs that you have access to. Why would you want to do that? Well, it makes sense to not use one password for everything that you have. This way, if a hacker does figure out that one password, they will be limited into what they have access to. If they have that password and it gets into all of your accounts, they could potentially take over your identity and take everything from you. So that's really scary. So definitely try to use multiple passwords for your multiple accounts. Also, these are some of the things you should not do. You definitely do not want to use a password that is weak and easily guessed. I see a lot of times where people will use 1, 2, 3, like this one right here, password 1, 2, 3. Very, very common. Even if you do password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, also not good. Try to use something that's not as common, and I'll give you some tips on how to create that. Try also to not ever use a password that you've used before. So if you're changing your password every 6 months or every year, whatever it is, don't choose one that you've used before, because then that could be out there for a while. And if that was hacked by somebody, then they'll have access to your new password. So don't recycle passwords. Also, do not use a password that starts or ends with a blank space. All right, so here are some tips and tricks. The longer the password, the stronger the password. Longer and stronger. Now, I'm not saying you should do a 20 or 30 character or letter long password. I have seen students try to do that and then they forget their own password. That is not good. But you can create a long, strong password by doing some of these things. And I actually will show you how to do it in the next slide. So the first way is you could try a lyric, which is a line from a song that you like, or a poem. One of those two things. It even could be from like a Dr. Seuss book, like a famous line from that. And I'll give you an example on the next slide. You could do a quote from a famous movie or a speech that you're familiar with. You could take a line from a book that you remember that stood out to you. You could use a series of words that are very meaningful to you. Or you could use an abbreviation by using the first letter of a word in a sentence. And the sentence could be very, very simple. Like, I get up every morning and brush my teeth, and take the first letter from each word in that sentence and use that to start off your password. Here are some things that you definitely do not want to do. So no personal information. You want to avoid using your nickname that other people know or your initials. You also don't want to use the name of your siblings or if you had children in middle school, you probably don't have children, but this is for your parents, your child, or even your pet name. That's also something that's easily guessed by others. No birthdays or important years. People tend to always want to put part of their birthday in their password. Not a good practice. The name of your street where you live, not good. The name of your school where you go, not listed here, but also more obvious. And then numbers from your address. Definitely try to avoid that as well. And then the last big tip is really don't be ordinary. Try to avoid using obvious words and patterns like the word password or let me in or you can't get in, something like that. And sequences that we're all familiar with, the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, that type of thing. And then, of course, there are keyboard patterns that people like to use as well. QWERTY is the first row of letters on the keyboard. So it's called a QWERTY keyboard. So try to not do that as well. All right, so let's go to the next slide. So here's an example, practical example. So let's say we did the lyric from a song. You would start with a line from a song that you are familiar with. So I used Lady Gaga's Million Reasons, and I took the line that says, you're giving me a million reasons to let you go. That's a famous line there. And then what I did was I applied, if we go back over here, I took the lyric, because I don't want to type out, you're giving me a million reasons to let you go every time I have to type my password. So I went down here and I said, let me use the abbreviation part. So I highlighted the first letter of every word. So now I'm taking the first letter from each word in the line in the lyric. So I get YG, MAM, RT, LYG. Then I said, let me do another kind of layer here. And I decided that I was going to add some kind of special character for letters. I didn't mention that on the previous slide, but using special characters, I think I mentioned it too ago. Here we go. Let's see. Yeah, right here I mentioned it that you should use a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. So I'm going to add some symbols now to my password. So I have the YGM, and I can sub out the A for an at symbol. They look very similar, and I'll remember that. And then I have MRT, and then I have an L. And instead of an L, I'm going to sub out a 1. I could also use an exclamation point there because an exclamation point looks very similar to the letter L as well. And then I have the YG. So right now I have letters and a number and a symbol. So I have 3 different things going on here. Now I'm going to add another layer to it. I'm going to add a capital letter or 2. So I decided I was going to use the G just because I would remember that G is great. I mean, it's a great song. It's Lady Gaga, and I figured I'd capitalize that one. I know that would stand out in my mind. It kind of made sense to me. So now I added Y, capital G, and the at symbol, MRT1Y, capital G. Okay, so the last thing that you can do is you can check the strength of your password at this site. So let me bring that up. And I'm going to type in that password, Y, capital G, and at MRT1Y, capital G. and you'll get a little report. Look at that, nice password. Your password is hack resistant. Your password does not appear in any databases of leaked passwords. And it says here that your password will be brute forced with an average home computer in approximately 4 years. It would take this long, and it's really long, 4,472,222 in your new Ferrari. I don't know what that is. I think that's just a funny line. So that is, it's basically saying that it's hackable for the next 4 years. It would take a long time for someone to crack that password. So this is a very good password, and you could definitely keep that for 6 months to a year. So once you're done with creating your good password, I'll just go back over here real quickly to remind you briefly. You come to your account, you go to manage your Google account, you click on security, you come down to where it says password, you click, it will ask you to sign in, and then you would put that new password in once, and then you would put that new password in a second time, and then you would click on change password. And that's the best way to change your password. I highly recommend that you change your school email/Google password. If you have not already done so, please do not leave it to the standard, to the default password that it was set to in the beginning of the year. This is making you very, very vulnerable. If you have any other questions, password related or technology related or related to books, please see Mrs. Spahn in the Media Center.